Hello student, currently we are learning the 10th chapter from the H. Robert philosophy, that is the law of cure. Yes, let us revise the previous lecture or what we learned from the previous in previous lecture. Yes, in this lecture H. Robert discussed the law of cure, and every one of you know it is the first. What is the first formulated law of cure? It is the law of similia. The law of similia is the law of cure, which is Hahnemann discovered by the fine observation and the deductive method of reasoning. And this law of cure, that is the similia similibus curantur, it is based on the nature's law, and therefore it is fundamental law, and it is a law which operates in all universe, just like the law of gravitation. It is applicable in whole universe. It is this law of similar is seen prominently in the natural world. We see it from man to man and applicable in every realm of nature. Then what is the active participant or what is the active ingredient in this law of similia? It is nothing but the similar remedy, and the medicine which has a power to produce the similar phenomena, just like a disease phenomena, similar phenomena whenever it induced to the healthy human being. That means the pathogenetic power of the drug, nothing but the curative power. You have to use those drugs which has a capacity to produce the similar symptom whenever we administer to the healthy human being. That means the knowledge of materia medica is must prior to select the most similar remedy for your patient, because without the knowledge of materia medica you can't compare the totality of the individual patient with any drug or drug picture, you can say. And this individuality or this capacity to produce the very typical symptom, very distinct symptom, and distinct symptom in healthy individual, and it is differ from drug to drug, and you have to realize or consider this individuality of the disease of the sick person as well as the individuality of the drug picture, isn't it? Then he give the instruction how we collect the symptom, or the symptom is incomplete without the related circumstances. That means the only sensation is not enough to select the medicine, while its exciting cause, maintaining cause, and aggravating and ameliorating factors, that is the related circumstances, are necessary for the selection of remedy. And therefore you should not be concentrate on only the particular part or the structure or the organ, while you have to collect all these elements from, or the causative factor, the modalities as well as the concomitant circumstances, because these factors or this modified the symptom, and because it is a reaction of the whole person or patient as a person to the adverse situation or to any circumstances, and this reaction as a whole is very necessary, because it is whatever is a disease is there, which is we observe that it is located in a particular organ, while whenever the disease phenomena occur, it is not remain local, isn't it? While it is the expression of the patient as a whole, and therefore it is important to consider the modalities and the concomitant symptom. A law of cure must represent some relation between the properties of a disease and the medicinal qualities of a drug, or in other words, we must have some concept of the character of drugs action on living body that will interpret the law of cure in the action of disease. Yes, here the knowledge of materia medica, which we, or this materia medica, the basic part of this materia medica is nothing but the proving, and you only get all this pathogenetic action of the drug through the experiment of drug proving. By the drug proving, you know the medicinal qualities of a drug, isn't it? And therefore medicinal quality, it means a drug action on the living body. It is only we consider or we obtain from the experiment of the drug proving. Then you have to interpret the law of cure in the action of disease. Then you can apply this knowledge of your materia medica to the disease. Student, you know, in aphorism number 26, it is a nature's law of cure. Hahnemann explained that a weaker dynamic affection is permanently extinguished in the living organism by a stronger one, if the latter, whilst differing in kind, is very similar to the former in its manifestation. You know, in this paragraph, Hahnemann distinctly declared that the phenomena of cure depend entirely upon fixed law, isn't it? This law of cure is a fixed law because it is a nature's law, and this or whenever we apply this law of similar, it is never altered by any other condition or any other situation while it applicable to whole universe, and therefore the law of similars, or the law that governs homeopathy. After Hahnemann had made a number of proving, he gathered together from the literature of great number of reported cures for the purpose of observing whether the cures had been made accidentally or from purpose, and whether they were accordance with the law of similar or with the principle of dissimilar. And he observed that in every instance he is able to see that cure had been made. Cure means which is rapid and gentle and permanent. That means a cure occurred always in accordance with the law of similars, and whenever the medicine applied according to the law of dissimilar, there is only palliation. There is only the palliation or the temporary relief of the symptom, and the reappearance of the symptom is there. While whether there is a application of the medicine according to the law of similia accidentally, whether it is accidentally, because during the time of Dr. Hahnemann there is no fixed principle for the cure or the selection of the medicine, and therefore first he collected all these unintentional or the example of the unintentional homeopathic cure, and he observed that the law of similia is very well applicable in the cases, and therefore the drug which cured in each case was capable of producing symptoms similar to those which it cured. This is true in all planes, under all circumstances, and all other apparent cure are not cure but suppressions. And then through very keen observation he established the law of similar as a law of cure. Then the homeopathic law establishes a definite relation not only between proved drug and known disease, but between all the unexplored medical wealth and the undeveloped requirement of sickness. Yes, it is very established law and have a definite relationship between proved drug and the different type of drug proving in future also you can apply according to this law. And therefore it has been proven by experience that a medicine will remove a group of symptoms similar to the group which is capable of producing. It is a basic principle of law of similia, that is a medicine will remove a group of symptoms similar to the group which it capable of producing. And therefore we observe various we experience this law through various other experience of the treatment. No medicine can cure any disease unless it acts upon all the disease part, either directly or indirectly. The more similar the symptom of a drug resemblance to the disease, the nearer its vital approach to the disease and the more dynamic in action. The number of parts of the human body susceptible to receiving the curative action of drugs vastly outnumbers those recognized in the anatomy, because disease and cure do not lie in the tissues except as a reflection of the man himself. This we may see from the almost infinite diversity of the symptom producible and curable by drugs. There is an almost infinite number of parts or in each organ, and this vast number of suffering together, some more or some less. The affection of each element may be different from that of any other. The aggregate affection composing the disease of that tissue, of that one organ. How much more complicated is the disease of the whole body, even though that manifestation be classed as a local disease. One organ cannot suffer alone any more than one cell. One organ cannot suffer alone any more than one cell can suffer by itself. Every disease affects in some way and to some degree every organ, every tissue, every molecule. It is very important. The disease is not restricted to the particular organ or particular tissue or particular cell. While whenever the disease or this dynamic disease pose deranged this dynamic vital force, the whole person, the constitution or the whole person is under the influence of this disease force, and therefore every disease affect in some way to some degree every organ, every tissue and every molecule of the human body. Yes, let us take the next paragraph. Because of custom, we express ourselves in this sense as from the greater toward the smaller, from without inward. Yet an analytical study must remind us that the disease manifestation is an exfoliation, an outward manifestation of an internal turmoil that is not found in the most minute explanation known most minute examination known to man of any cell or portion of the human frame. Yes, you know, we already learned that not as whenever we consider it is as a disease, then it is always from center to periphery. Whenever there is a derangement of the disease, is the greater towards the smaller, from without inward. Yet that means the expression of the, whenever there is a derangement of the vital force of the internal man, then it is expressed outwardly. Yet an analytical study must remind us that disease manifestation is an exfoliation. Yes, understand, the disease manifestation is an exfoliation. That means the dynamic disease force deranges the dynamic vital force, and because of this derangement, vital force, what do you mean by exfoliation? Exfoliation, it is related to the remove the dead skin. But here the meaning of this exfoliation means it is they throw out or throw outwardly or manifest outwardly. As the internal derangement of the vital force, it exfoliate outward. Outward means at the first the symptom appear at the skin level. You know, the skin, the function of the skin is a protective, and it is also elimination is also there. This elimination of the all these toxins which are produced during the process of disease, and therefore the skin, in this way skin protect all internal organ, isn't it? And therefore the disease manifestation is an exfoliation. Disease manifestation is exfoliation, it is the outward manifestation of the internal turmoil and outward manifestation of inward turmoil. Whatever is the inward derangement of the internal man, it is manifested outwardly. It is a center to periphery, isn't it? This is not found in the most minute examination known to man of any cell or portion of the human frame. Yes, if you try to explain this phenomena, disease phenomena, you can't observe such a most minute examination. There is a limitation to the human being that you cannot understand what is the disease phenomena at the cellular level or the any portion of the human frame. But by the manifestation of this symptom, a sign and symptom outwardly, you must realize that there is some internal turmoil or there is some derangement of the internal vital force. We may find disease manifestations, but we can't find disease itself. Yes, we find disease manifestation. Why we find disease manifestation? Because these sign and symptoms which appeared at the material body, isn't it? Or there is a turmoil at the mental plane also. There is a deviation from the state of health, and therefore there is a alteration of the mental symptoms, and then there is a alteration of the physical level. Some physical symptoms are altered, and we observe the deviation from the state of health. And we also observed whenever the symptoms manifested at the particular level, there is a abnormal sensation and function of the organ, and therefore we observe the symptom only. We observe only the disease manifestation because these are outwardly manifested, but we don't have a knowledge of the disease phenomena because we can't find the disease itself, because it is a totally dynamic in nature, just like a vital force. It is immaterial, invisible, spiritual and dynamic in nature. Therefore we can't find the disease itself, but we only observe the disease manifestation. Similarly, as we observe the vital force through our sensation and function, through our lively activity like motion or the growth, etc. Similarly, we know or we have a knowledge of disease through its sign and symptom or the outward manifestation. No medicine can perfectly no medicine can effect a perfect cure unless it has a curative action upon every disease part, and in just the proportion that each part manifests disorder. That means the whatever is a medicine we select, every medicine has to act according to the whenever this medicine has a capacity to produce some symptom. Therefore, no medicine can effect a perfect cure. Perfect cure means rapid, gentle and permanent cure unless it has curative action. Curative action means it has ability to remove or annihilate the symptom by the symptom similarity. Thus, remove the natural symptom by producing the similar and stronger artificial symptom. Then only the perfect cure can occur. Therefore, that medicine which we introduce to the patient, it has a capacity to produce the similar and stronger disease. Then only similar and stronger disease upon every disease part. This medicine has a capacity to produce the similar symptom than that of the disease. Then only it can cure, it can produce the perfect cure. Therefore, H.A. Roberts told you that no medicine can effect a perfect cure unless it has a curative action upon every disease part, and in just the proportion that each part manifests disorder. Proportion means it is the exact similarity, that this proportion you can select or you can produce by the selection of proper potency, isn't it? This strength of the or the whatever is the intensity of the symptom, you have to select the similar medicine or which produce the disease at the similar intensity rather than, or you can say much stronger than the proportion of that symptom, and it is only occurred by the potentization of drug. By the or whenever we potentize drug, we gain the various ranges of potency, isn't it? And this through these various ranges we can select a proper potency which exactly with the proportion of the disorder, that is the susceptibility. Potentized medicine administered according to the law of similia is the true regulator of the vital energy. Yes, this potentized medicine, this dynamic action or this dynamic disease in the living economy of man is extinguished in a permanent manner by another that is more powerful than the disease force, or the more powerful than the disease, and bears a strong resemblance to the disease force, isn't it? And therefore the potentized medicine means the powerful medicine. The word powerful means the powerful than that of the disease force or disease manifestation, and therefore these when we potentize the medicine going higher and higher, and we can or in order that we may reach the intensity, isn't it? Therefore the remedy becomes more powerful by potentization. and the it is a true regulator. Whenever it reach or whenever is the enough dynamic power you provide to the vital energy, then it able to produce the similar disease in a more, which is more strengthened than the or more stronger than the natural disease, and make free the vital energy or vital force. This medicine only is the true regulator of the vital energy. That means if you want to remove the disease force from the body, vital force itself has its energy, while because of the disease force it is deranged, isn't it? But by producing the similar and stronger medicine, how we get the stronger medicine? Only by the potentization. And whenever only the symptom similarity is not enough, remember, but the stronger dose is enough, which is the true regulator of the vital energy. Whenever the load of the natural disease is removed, then vital force by and through its own energy can restore its own balance. That the vital essence, which is synonymous or at least analogous to the man himself and lies very close to life itself. Yes, this medicine is just as it is a vital energy, and the drug energy is that vital essence which is synonymous, it is just as similar to the vital energy. This potentized medicine is similar or it is analogous to the man itself and lies very close to the life itself. It is similar to the life force. The totality of any disease is the totality of the morbid action, sensation and manifestation. Any true and complete and comprehensive law of therapeutic must recognize all the morbid phenomena and show some relation between them and the curative agent. This relationship must be direct and clear. Yes, this law of similia is very direct and clear. You have to collect the symptom from patient, make a totality and select a similar medicine. Therefore, the totality of any disease is a sole guide for the selection of medicine. Therefore, in which way the disease force act on the human body, the similar way the drug force also act on the human being, and therefore it is a very direct and clear. There is no confusion and it is very easy to comprehension. It is a comprehensive law of therapeutic. It is not the cure is not in a zigzag way, while it is very in a straight way. Jocelyn says the degree of conceivable relationship between the action of drugs and that of disease may be represented by an immense circle. You know Jocelyn is a pioneer in diabetic cure. He was the first doctor in United States to specialize in the disease. He put forth the idea of the specialization and he studied deeply in this field like diabetes. He was the pioneer of in diabetic care, or the pioneer of the specialization, you say. He says that the degree of conceivable relationship between the action of drug, that of disease, may be represented by an immense circle. Immense means in very large way. The drug energy has very wide scope and very widely act, or very in the usually it act in whenever we prescribe it. Identity is the central point, and on this point stands isopathy. Yes, is another relationship. Whatever is the Jocelyn says, the degree of conceivable relationship between the action of drug and that of the disease may be represented by an immense circle. Yes, there is a wide scope, and whenever the identity is the central point. Yes, whenever we select the similar medicine, this identity, that means the similarity, you can say the identity is the central point, and on this point stands isopathy. Selecting the identical medicine, it is a isopathy. The use of the same pathogenetic material or discharge, then it is a isopathy. Immediately around it are arranged the most perfect degree of similarity. The whatever is a disease product are there, it is a very perfect to the degree of similarity. This is the province of homeopathy, the simillimum. Yes, it is a province of homeopathy, the simillimum. The exact simillimum we can obtain from that particular disease, but while it is a this crude in nature, isopathy is crude in nature, while homeopathy is based on the law of similia. It is not advised to use the same disease product, isn't it? The contagious to this is the ring of similarities, less perfect but still great. This field is the field of the near similar but not the simillimum. Yes, in this field, isopathy, it exactly uses that contagious principle which closely related to the disease, while it is near the similar but not the simillimum. That means the in homeopathy, it is not an exact similarity is there, while it is not the like, it is not that contagious principle, while it is a simillimum, that is it is a artificial drugs which has a tendency to produce the similar type of disease in human being. That therefore it is a simillimum. Isopathy is not homeopathy. We must keep this distinction ever before us. Yes, isopathy, as it is also the based on the, it is identical one, while the homeopathy is a similar one. Have you understand? In isopathy use the same contagious principle, the identical one, while in homeopathy use the similar one. We must keep this distinction ever before us. Isopathy is identity, homeopathy rests its whole case on the similarity, and in the degree of its perfection we may be sure of the results. We cannot be accused of combating symptoms. Rather, we are guided by symptoms in combating disease. Yes, try to understand. We cannot be accused of combating symptoms. Yes, we have to, it is not, you should not lay blame on. Our target is not combating with symptom. Rather, we are guided by symptoms in combating disease. Have you understand this? Our target of treatment is not remove the symptom, not to fight with the symptom. Rather, the symptoms are the guide for us. It is a sole guide for the physician in order to remove the disease. Our target is remove disease. Our target is not the remove the symptom. Have you got this? Because symptoms are the outward manifestation of the derangement of the vital force by disease force. We try to remove this disease from human being, we are not only remove the symptoms. हे गॉट दिस, फक्त आपल्याला सिम्पटम रिमूव्ह करणं हे आपलं टार्गेट नाही आहे. आपल्याला सिम्पटमशीच लढायचं नाही आहे, तर आपल्याला कोणाशी लढायचं आहे? आपल्याला डिसीजची लढायचं आहे, इजंट इट. म्हणून मग तर डिसीज रिमूव्ह करणं किंवा डिसीजला रिमूव्ह करणं हे आपलं टार्गेट नसून आपल्याला काय करायचं आहे? आवर टार्गेट इज, आपल्याला हे सिम्पटम जे गाईड करतात आहे त्या सिम्पटमच्या आधारे आपल्याला डिसीज रिमूव्ह करायचा आहे. म्हणून आपण काय करतो आहे की त्या जे ड्रग सबस्टन्स तसे सिमिलर सिम्पटम प्रोड्यूस करतात ते शस्त्र आपण या डिसीजशी लढताना वापरायचं आहे. द लॉ ऑफ क्युअर सिमिलिया सिमिलिबस क्युरेंचर is an fundamental as any law in nature. It is a law of universal adaptability to human sickness. Yes, it is a law of universal adaptability. It is applicable in whole universe, in whole any part of the world, any time, in any circumstances to human sickness. It ranks in the field of astronomy. This is the only general law for the cure of the physical and mental ills of man. It is the only method of healing that depends as a whole upon one general principle, and it is only method of healing that has continued to withstand the pressure of time and changing circumstances. Yes, it is a law of universal adaptable to every human sickness and rank in the field of astronomy. Yes, through the various example from the astronomy, you take a conclusion that this homeopathy is not only the or this any other laws from the science, as a science, that is a physics, chemistry, biology, whatever is a law, these are all applicable to the law of similia. These are all applicable in homeopathy. It is the similarly the whatever is the laws of the astronomy, these are as the dynamic concept of the drug used here, as which is ruled the whole cosmos, isn't it? And therefore it is a rank in the field of astronomy. Yes, all the rules of this astronomy, these are all applicable in homeopathy, and therefore it is the only general law for cure of the physical and mental ills of man, as man is a part of this universe, and this the whatever is the cosmic energy, cosmic vital force regulate the man, and we use the same drug energy from the nature in order to remove and establish the harmonious sensation and function of the human being which corresponding with the nature. It is the only method of healing and depends as a whole. We are not classifying the human being in different organ or different system, while we select the medicine as a person as a whole. We are not concentrate on a particular organ or particular disease or any pathological changes, while we consider the patient as a whole and upon one general principle, and it is only method of healing that has continued to withstand the pressure of time. Yes, it is applicable since antiquity, while after discovery of this law of similia, many other physicians treat their patient according to this law of similia, and yes, it is remain as it is. Still the pressure of time, different or you can say the battle with this allopathy and homeopathy, and in this whole opposition, in spite of the whole opposition to the homeopathy, it remain as it is. There is not or the principle and rules or laws of the homeopathy not get changed with the pressure of time and changing circumstances. It is remain as it is because it is these are the fundamental, these are the basic, these are all natural laws and therefore they withstand with the pressure of time and changing circumstances. It is a law of nature discovered by following the threads of inductive reasoning. Yes, it is a law of nature and proved, and it is proved as a science by the inductive method of reasoning and proven to be true by countless tests. Yes, with various other success by the homeopathic treatment, each and every homeopathic physician help to prove this homeopathy with their successful treatment. Every homeopathic physician daily take the experience of this natural law, that is the similia similibus curantur, and therefore day by day it gets the strength get to the homeopathy, and then confidence, and very confidently homeopathic physician treat the various other disease condition, isn't it, and daily take the effect or daily take the experience of the efficacy of the homeopathy very successfully. Okay, it is only because of this law of cure, you can say the law of cure, that is the similia similibus curantur. Okay, if any difficulty please ask me. Thank you. In this lecture we learn what is the most we can hope to know that of disease, then what can we know the drug action. Yes, it is a what can we know the drug action? By the experiment of drug proving. What part does observation play in homeopathic prescribing? Yes, it is a we consider the totality of symptom and patient as a whole. What kind of symptom are most frequently voiced by the patient? Yes, what kind of symptom are most voiced by the patient? These are the sensations. What are the concomitant symptoms and how do we rank them as to relative value? Yes, you know the value of the concomitant symptom. Why do we say the homeopathic law establishes a definite relation between drug and disease? Yes, you know, we discussed it previously. What are the disease manifestations and what is the difference between isopathy and homeopathy? Yes, these are the questionnaires, and through these questionnaires we revise this whole lecture. Okay, thank you.